Welcome back to part 3 of the Design Your Year challenge here on the Leading Yourself podcast. We are already on week 3 of the challenge. First week, we talked about what are the things that we're living in 2023 that we're not taking with us into 2024. Then last week, we determined what is our starting point by doing a life audit using the Wheel of Life. Today, we are going to start drafting that vision for 2024, and we're going to do our own vision board. This is going to be so much fun. Welcome to the Leading Yourself podcast. This is your host, Carolina de Arriba. I'm an HR professional, health and fitness coach, wife, mom, and above all things, a goal-getter. In this podcast, we're going to be digging into all things leadership, professional and career development, habits, and relationships. This is a podcast for those who want to become the best version of themselves. Those who have big dreams and are willing to embrace the journey and put in the work to achieve them. My goal is to share with you the tools, tips, and tricks to help you in your journey. So let's dig into today's episode. I have to admit that this is one of my favorite things to do this time of the year, to build a vision board. I came across vision boards some years ago. We actually did an exercise with a bunch of magazines with a group of friends, and I loved it. I still have that original vision board that I did then in my house. And since then, every year I've made this my personal tradition. Now, if you are not familiar with vision boards and you're wondering what is a vision board basically is a collage of images, of pictures, and maybe even affirmations of your dreams and your desires. And it's designed to serve as a source of inspiration and motivation. You can do a vision board for the long term. Like the very first one that I did, I was thinking like holistically on my life and what do I want of life. Or you can do it like I do now every year, a vision board for the next year. So at this time of the year, every year, I spend some time building a vision board for the year ahead. I'm actually already done with my 2024 vision board, and I'm super excited. And that's one of the purposes of a vision board, to get you excited for what is possible, to get you excited about the idea of realizing what you truly want your year to be. And I'll explain how, after doing your vision board, you can leverage it to keep you going and keep you motivated throughout the year and to increase your chances of actually making it a reality. I'm very happy this year. I was looking at my 2023 vision board, and one of the things I like to do is like just go through it and say, did this represent my year? Would this be a summary of my year? And yes, it's like if I were today at the end of 2023 put a collage that summarized my year, the only thing is that I did it a year before. And that sensation a year after, that what you put together is actually what happened. It gives you this sense of creation, right? You created your year. And that's what we're going to do here. We are designing our best year yet. And this vision board is going to be an anchor throughout the year to remind us of the year that we are designing and building for ourselves. So, I want to walk you through how to even do a vision board. And a lot of people jump directly to the creative part of the vision board, which is putting this collage of images and, as I said, maybe affirmations or keywords together. What I had found is certainly you can do that. That's how I did my first one, right? I just collected any image that I could relate to, that I could see in my vision board, and I would just put it there. But now, over the years, I have perfection this process of doing some self reflection in preparation for choosing what images are going to go into that collage. So I like to start by reflecting on the current year, in this case, 2023, right? And I do things like what we did in week 1 and week 2 of this challenge. That is kind of the pre work leading to our vision board today. But then I start to reflect as well on the future. And I start to ask myself some questions that help me kind of seeing my mind and creating my mind this vision board before I start to use my hands to create it in physical vision board. And we're going to talk about the different types of vision boards that you can create. But I want to share with you some questions or journal prompts that you can use to reflect in preparation of building your own vision board. And just like in week 1 and 2 of the challenge, you can go to the show notes of the podcast episode and go to the Notion template that I have created for this challenge. And you're going to find all the questions that I'm going to share with you in there, and you're going to find the space to write there, so you can do all in this Notion template and you can keep it so you can come back anytime that you want. So make sure that you download that template. So the first question is, what is your theme word for the year? I touched on this on a previous episode, but I look at every year as a book that has 12 chapters and 365 pages. And I like to put a title to my book. And typically, when you write a book, the title, depending on the author, right? I guess you can do it both ways, can be the first thing that you do or the last thing that you do. Typically, it happens at the end. Once the book is done, then you say, okay, this is how we're calling this book. But I like to name my book in advance. That way, I can be intentional about what I write in every single page and every single chapter of that book. So I like to pick my power word for the year. And I've done episodes in the past where I walk you through how to pick your power word of the year. What I'm going to do is I'm going to reshare that podcast maybe midway this week, so you can listen to that and you can pick your own power word. And that power word becomes kind of the theme for your vision board. When we get to do our vision board, that vision board should reflect that power word and vice versa. And I think I share with you, but my power word for 2024 is vibrant. That is my theme for 2024. I want to feel vibrant. I want to irradiate vibrant energy everywhere I go. So that is going to be my theme. And another thing that is important when you pick your word is to make sure that you're clear on why you're picking that word. Why that word now? Why is that word important to you right now in 2024? What is the why behind that word, in other words? Then, what I like to journal about and think is, when I imagine my dream life, how would it look? If I think of a day in 2024 that it's one of my best days in 2024, how would that day look like? Right? And that is also influenced by the power word that I picked, right? So journaling on and just thinking, what would that dream life or that dream day look like for you in 2024? Another thing that I like to reflect on is, what interests or hobbies do I want to explore in 2024? I always like to try new things, right? And I even, to the point that I create a bucket list. I have a life bucket list of all the things that I want to do. I actually have it on my phone every time so I can look at it anytime and I can cross things off my bucket list. But I have things like going to Hawaii, which we actually did last year, or I have things like seeing the northern lights. That's something I haven't done yet. But there's a list of things that I want to do in this lifetime. Some of them are visiting places like the ones I shared. Others can be things like publishing a book, which I did last year. Um, or it could be smaller things, right? So what is your bucket list? What are the things that you don't want to live this life without having experience? And I keep that list, as I said, on my phone, but that can take a lifetime to cross everything off your list. So I also like to think about for next year, what are my bucket list items that I want to experience in 2024? And I typically pick one from the list. In 2023, I actually, well, no, Hawaii was end of 2022, and then the book was 2023. So I always have this one big thing that I really striving to accomplish or experience or both in that year. So what is that one big thing for you in 2024? And then what are some interests and hobbies that you want to explore or spend more time doing? Another question you can ask yourself is, how can I make my everyday environment more inspiring and enjoyable this year? Or how can I set my environment to support my vision, to support the life that I want to live and create in 2024? Another question can be, what kind of self care practices do I want to incorporate in 2024? This one for me is inspired by my word of vibrant. So maybe there's a different word for you, but I personally believe that self care is something that we need to be very intentional about. So I always like to think about this, regardless of my power word, but especially this year because I picked for myself the word vibrant. Self care is going to be a big enabler for me to live that vibrant life in 2024. Another question is, in what ways do you wish to contribute to your community and to the world in 2024? What kind of impact do you want to make? This is a very deep question, right? And when we talk about the community and the world, it can be as small as you want. It can be your personal world, your immediate personal world, or it can be the entire whole world, right? But in which ways do you want to contribute? In which ways do you want to make an impact? What kind of impact do you want to make in 2024? Another thing that I like to think about is what books I'm going to read in 2024. You can even expand that list to other things like podcasts or even movies or other things that inspire you, that you want to read about or be inspired by in 2024. Also, how do you envision it strengthening your personal relationships in 2024? I think we we really need those key relationships in our lives in order to have a fulfilling life. And if you want to create your best year yet, you need to include relationships in the mix, right? Um, and thinking about what are those key relationships in your life that you want to strengthen, that the people you want to spend more time with, the people that you want to do things with. How do you envision strengthening those relationships and staying in touch with the people that you love? Another question you can ask yourself in preparation for creating the vision board is, what are your financial goals this year? And what would it take for you to achieve those financial goals? Another thing could be, what do you want to learn more about in 2024? Or how do you plan to celebrate your small wins and and your big milestones, right? Typically we only talk about the big milestones, but I am big into celebrating as well the very small wins along the way. So those are some questions that you can ask yourself, along with creating that bucket list that I mentioned. And of course, you have the inputs from all the things that we've been discussing in part one and part two of this challenge, the Design Your Year challenge here on the podcast. And once again, all of these questions you can find on the Notion template is the same one that we've been using in weeks before. And you can find it in the link on the show notes of this podcast episode. So, with all that input, and I'm oversimplifying this, but I think this would be what I will tell someone to do when they're doing their first vision board. And I've been hosting vision board parties for the last 4 years, maybe. And it takes us at least a couple of hours to go through this process, right? And I typically do a visualization with people where you think about seeing yourself celebrating your 80th birthday, and I walk you through that celebration with some thought-provoking questions that leave you inspired and thinking about the legacy that you want to leave behind you. And it's such a powerful exercise. But we're not going to do that today. I think those questions can be a great starting point. So you have something that gives you direction as to what to look for to put on your vision board. So now let's create our vision board. And there's two types basically of vision board. You can do a physical vision board where you can gather a bunch of magazines and print images and cut them and put them on a physical board. The first one I did was a physical board, and I have it in this big frame that I have in my office. And that vision board is still relevant because it was a lifelong vision board. Now, after that, I mentioned I do one every year, and I like to do a digital vision board. And I'm going to explain you how to do that. So the physical vision board, very easy. You're going to find images, whether it's collecting magazines, any old magazines you have at home, or you can Google keywords from all the things that you've been reflecting on and printing those images and cutting them and making basically a collage of images in a piece of paper. Or you can do a digital board. And that's what I do now. And the reason for that is because I like to have that vision board on my Notion planner, which, by the way, you will find a link to my 2024 Design Your Year planner. That's the planner that I use to plan my time and to stay on track throughout the year. You will find a link to that inside the Design Your Year template. If you're curious and you're interested on grabbing that, it's been a life-changing tool for me in helping me just manage my time in a way that prioritizes what matters most. So I have it there, but I also have my vision board as the desktop image background on my computer. So the first thing that I see when I open my computer is my vision board. So I get to see my vision board every single day, and we'll talk more about that at the end of the episode. But I do a digital vision board. And how I start doing that is after having journal on all these questions that I talked about, and I gather my wheel of life that we did last year, and I start to, with a highlighter, whether it's a physical one if you're doing this on paper, or a digital one if you're using the Notion template, I start to highlight keywords, words that stand out in all the things that I wrote. And then I start to search for those words on Pinterest. So I use Pinterest to collect my images. I love Pinterest. I love building my own pin board. So what I do is I create a private pin board that I call Vision Board 2024. And by making it private, what it does is that no one else can see it. I don't think there's anything wrong if it's public. I like to make it private. I call it Vision Board 2024. And then I start to search for those words in Pinterest and saving them into this pin board. And I do that for maybe a couple of weeks. I'm just looking for images here and there, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. I'm looking for images, I'm collecting them. And then I use Canva to create my actual vision board. So Canva, if you're not familiar, is a digital tool to create and design digital art. And it has a lot of different templates. I have included two Canva templates on the Notion template that I created for you. So if you want to grab one of those, you have the links there. And then I just start to move the pictures, right? Copy the pictures that I have in Pinterest into this vision board in Canva. And that's how I create my vision board, is just making a collage of all the images. And I move the pictures around, and I like to have some keywords around my vision board. So for me, I'm trying to look for my 2024 vision board, but some of the keywords that you will find on my 2024 vision board includes, of course, vibrant, because that's my word of the year, but I also have friendships, health, energy, abundance, fulfillment, thriving relationships, fun and joy, self love. Those are some keywords that you will find in my 2024 vision board. So I do it in Canva. I think the hardest part is to pick the right pictures. And here's the thing, you also have a whole library of pictures in Canva. So even if you don't want to use Pinterest, you can just use Canva. Now, you might need a pro license for Canva to get access to the full library of images, but you can just use Canva to do your vision board. And once my vision board is finished, which feels amazing to look at it and think that a year from now, this can be the highlights of my life. That feels really exciting, and it should feel exciting. If it doesn't, that means that you're aiming too low, and you need to raise the bar, and you need to step outside of your comfort zone and think bigger and dream bigger and go back and redo your whole vision board. You should feel excited when you see the final product of your vision board. Now, once it's finished, as I said, I put it as the background of my computer. Depending on whether you're doing a digital one or a physical one, just put it in a place where you can see it daily, right? And then the reason for that is that you want to look at your vision board every day to remind yourself of what you're working towards, and to help you stay focused and to help you stay motivated, because it's not going to be easy to create the life that you're designing right now. It's not going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it. And that vision board is going to be your reminder, your anchor of what you're aiming for, what you're working towards. Use your vision board as a compass to help you make decisions throughout the day. When I'm about to make decisions throughout the day and I start to get myself paralyzed in analysis paralysis, might sound familiar. It does to me, because that has been a big part of my life. When I'm about to make big decisions and I get paralyzed in analyzing the decisions. And the only reason I get paralyzed is because somehow I want to control the outcome. And a lot of times I don't know what the outcome of those decisions is going to be. So what I do is I go back to my vision board and I look at my vision board and I think about what decision will make this vision a reality. How this decision will impact my vision board. And sometimes I even need to ask, how would it make this or something bigger possible? Because it could be that I didn't dream big enough when I did that vision board, right? So I always like to add that last part to it. But I use my vision board, the point I'm trying to make, as a compass to guide my decisions, to inspire me, to help me stay on track, to help me stay focused on what matters most and what I'm working towards. And that is how you create a vision board and how you leverage your vision board to not only design, but build and create your best year yet. Remind Remember to download the Notion template so you can do the exercise. There's the templates for the vision boards in there, there's the questions for your journaling. Everything is in there. I hope that you decide to do this exercise. I would love to see if you want to share your vision board. I would love to see it. I would love to hear what was your experience putting together your own vision board for 2024. One thing is guaranteed, you're going to have lots of fun. So even if you don't do anything with your vision board afterwards, it's a fun activity to do. You can do it by yourself. You can do it with friends. You can do it with your kids. You can do it with your family as a family activity. It's super fun and you're going to love it. And I can't wait to hear how much you like it. And that is part 3 of this challenge, how to build your vision board. We have one more part in this challenge, which will be next week when we're going to get into planning for 2024 and basically creating the roadmap on how we're going to make this vision board our reality. I can't wait to talk to you next week. Until then, have fun making your vision board. Have an amazing week ahead, and I'll talk to you next week here on the Leading Yourself podcast.